Welcome to Cosmic Comics. Thanks for joining me for another episode of the ongoing Saga of the Serpent Crown. If you've been following along with the series of videos I've been putting out so far, this, to me, is when things start to really get exciting, because moving forward across my next several videos, many of the various subjects I've touched on so far begin to mix together and then gel into a shared narrative. This story began with my last Squadron Supreme video, where I cover their second appearance. At the end of their previous issue, the Avengers and Squadron Supreme were fighting one another when, to avoid problems with the local authorities, President of Roxxon Oil and the Brand Corporation, Hugh Jones, pushed a button that transported both superpowered teams to the Marvel 712 universe, also known as Earth S, or the Marvel S universe, due to it being the home of Squadron Supreme. At the opening of Avengers Volume 1, issue number 147, published in 1976, tensions between the two teams are high, and this time it's Squadron Sinister leading the attack. An all-out brawl of epic proportions begins in the streets. There seems to be no true team-up or face-off at the moment. Instead, we're stuck with an awesome group battle where teammates are swapping foes and landing attacks wherever they can. Then the army arrives and the Avengers realize they have to stop. And here we run across one of the fundamental differences between Earth S and Earth 616. On Earth S, the superheroes are working hand in hand with the military. I'm not sure if this is all choice 100% or maybe they're being directed to act this way to some extent by outside influences. Either way, this continuous interest in civic duty will be the defining characteristic of Earth S moving forward. We then get a show of power that shows us that Squadron Supreme and the powers that be on Earth S feel very safe in their seat of power by bringing in the President of the United States. Just think of the balls that takes. You've got multiple superheroes here who could potentially take him out. This is a Secret Service nightmare. As the President gets out, our heroes are struck not just by one shocker, but two. The president is Nelson Rockefeller, who was vice president under Gerald Ford on Earth, and he's wearing the Serpent crown. Cap looks shocked and tells everybody that he thought that the crown was lost after the Serpent Squad was defeated after using it to brainwash Hugh Jones. Wanda points out the obvious. Rockefeller is most likely wearing this world's crown. Vision immediately recognizes the danger and takes off into action. He loses all density and turns himself invisible. He then flies over to President Rockefeller and becomes solid enough to snatch the serpent crown from his head. Not able to hold on for long, he drops the crown down to Wanda, who threatens to destroy it if the armed forces don't back down. Her threats are enough to scare President Rockefeller, who tells Squadron Supreme and the Army to back down as the Avengers make their exit. As the Avengers walk through the city, Wanda insists they listen to what she's learned about the crown. Instinctively, she knows not to wear it, but admits that in gleaning the little bit of information that she has from it, that she has had to fight the temptation to place it upon her head. She's learned that the crown has been on the heads of every CEO of every major multinational corporation in America. The crown binds them all together psychically. While the Avengers consider the implications of a hidden power controlling both government and business, Wanda collapses from the strain of carrying the Serpent crown. Meanwhile, President Rockefeller reveals what Wanda just discovered. The secret behind the Serpent crown, or perhaps we should say one of the secrets behind the Serpent crown, is that it is tied to all of the other copies of the Serpent crown across the multiverse. This is because each of the crowns are a manifestation of Set, and thus interconnected and interwoven. Every human who places the Serpent crown upon their head becomes a slave of Set forever, incapable of contacting other slaves of Set across the multiverse. Thus, when Hugh Jones of Roxxon Oil put on the Serpent crown some time ago, he remained a slave of Set despite losing the crown, and as such has been in contact with the movers and shakers in business and government from Earth S. We're given the origins of this world's Serpent crown in the Web of Spider-Man Annual No. 5 from 1989. Gregory Hungerford Gideon was given the crown after it was found on one of his oil rigs in the Pacific. From that point, Gideon used his business connections to set up meetings with other corporate heads that shared his interest. Soon their minds were interconnected to Set's and each other's. From there, they began planning how to amass as much power as they could. They wanted to ensure any obstacles to their plan were eliminated before setting it into motion, so they attacked the two most powerful mystics in the world. They trapped the Wizard Supreme, Professor Imam, in another dimension, and imprisoned Arcana in a still cell. Her air and water were filtered out to ensure that all chemicals she received were man-made, so she couldn't use her power over nature to escape. The plan was to use Arcana as a bride for Set upon his return. Using Arcana for this would have been beautifully ironic, because she's a champion of Gaia, Set's oldest enemy. When Squadron Supreme came looking for her, Gideon used the crown to place the squad under his control. So, who is this Gregory Gideon? Well, on Earth 616, he was an extremely wealthy man who ended up becoming a foe of the Fantastic Four. The other 6 major players are shown, and I'm going to list who they are, but base the information on the 616 universe. In the Serpent Cartel are Justin Hammer, a British industrialist who became one of the world's leading weapon suppliers once Stark Industries stopped producing weapons. Leland Owlsley, who was involved in a number of criminal enterprises across the country and often fought against Daredevil. Attorney General Kyle Richmond, who is Nighthawk. Sebastian Shaw, who was a billionaire by 40 and ran the Hellfire Club. Obadiah Stane, a man known for his incredible strategy that specializes in studying his opponent's weaknesses. And finally, Cornelius Van Lunt, who made his fortune off the advice of a good astrologist and used his wealth to set up his own Zodiac cartel. We then get this cute little scene where Hugh Jones makes fun of Cornelius for the failures of his alter ego in our world. The crown is already warping Wanda's mind and her perception of reality. Vision attempts to take the crown from her, but is blasted backward and left chasing after his wife down the street. Meanwhile, Hyperion, Golden Archer, and Lady Lark are out looking for the Avengers. In their brief conversation, we learn that Golden Archer and Lady Lark are lovers, but he might be starting to wear on her a bit. On the other hand, Hyperion insists that it's impossible for him to become interested in an Earthwoman. It's at that moment that Hyperion literally walks right into the Scarlet Witch, followed closely by Vision. In the ensuing fray, Hyperion bounces off of Vision, Golden Archer's arrows fly right through Vision, and Vision uses his heat rays to stop Lady Lark from singing her song. Hyperion and the Golden Archer do manage to get Vision wrapped up in a lamppost, but since he can change his density and phase out of it, it doesn't do much good. While the Vision brawls, his wife fights a silent battle against a demanding mind of evil. Vision drops the Archer with a blast from his eyes, while a cocky Hyperion is taken out by Vision's weird chest death grip thing that he occasionally does. The Scarlet Witch has emerged from her battle over the crown and takes out Lady Lark, which stops her from singing her foes into submission. With her full wits about her, Wanda agrees to allow Vision to carry the Serpent crown in hopes that it cannot attack his computer mind. On to Avengers issue number 148. Can anyone spot what's wrong with the cover? Well, this is a video, so you can pause it if you like, but I'm not waiting on you. It's Thor. He's in this series of issues, but him and Moondragon are actually off taking care of a completely different plot at the moment. Then we open it up to page 1, and then this page doesn't fit in with anything. It's completely out of place. I mean, why are the Avengers laying around all over the place looking like they're defeated? If anything, at the end of the previous issue, the Avengers gave several members of Squadron Supreme a pretty good thrashing. So then we turn the page again, and finally the real story picks up. And here we are in Squadron Supreme's space station called Rocket Central, where we are given a quick recap and treated to the first appearance of Amphibion. The next scene takes place at the international headquarters of the Cadre Cartel, sometimes referred to as the Serpent Cartel. Some of the members are upset about having to deal with the Avengers, but President Rockefeller speaks out to remind his board, as the Crown's alien presence attempts to take over the world of the Avengers, that they have a responsibility to help Earth 616's executives overcome the same problems that they once had. Vision and Wanda are missing after their run-in with Squadron last issue, so the remaining Avengers split up to look for them. This leads into our heroes and Squadron facing off against each other in small groups throughout the city. The first of these is Cap and Hawk, Tom Thumb, and Amphibian versus the Beast and Hellcat. The Amphibian crawls up from the sewers and is made short work of by Hellcat. Tom Thumb answers the challenge by spraying her with a paste that renders Hellcat immobile. With Patsy in trouble, the Beast steps up, taking out both Tom Thumb and Cap and Hawk. The next matchup is Captain America and Iron Man versus Dr. Spectrum and the Wizard. Initially, our heroes are caught off guard, but the end result of this battle is pretty predictable. Iron Man defeats Dr. Spectrum like he has in the past with a burst of UV light, and Wizard is caught unawares in the back of the head by the return of Captain America's shield. After this battle, our 6 heroes reunite and decide that due to the Serpent's influence on this world, they have to do what they can to help save it before leaving. While all of this has been going on, Lady Gaia herself, this is a pretty rare occurrence for her to step in and make a personal appearance, is paying a visit to Arcana, who still waits in her cell. Gaia has arrived to give her hope and let her know that her time of imprisonment is almost up. We discover that the 2 uncaptured members of Squadron Supreme, Nighthawk and Power Princess, were both capable of staving off the Crown's influence through willpower and intense mental discipline. Both have infiltrated the Cartel. We know that Kyle Richmond is Nighthawk, and we soon learn that his assistant is Power Princess, who happily rescues Arcana. The Cartel gets spooked by all the alarms going off, and that's when Kyle Richmond floods the room with knockout gas. Soon, Nighthawk and Gideon are left standing alone in the dark conference room, where Kyle informs him that his cartel isn't going to be around anymore. They then rescue Professor Emmem from the other dimension. Then Arcana and Professor Emmem jointly cast a spell with the help of Gaia. This spell frees everyone in America from Set's control. At that same moment, in the Oval Office, Squadron Supreme is apologizing for their inability to bring in the Avengers and recoup the Serpent Crown. Hyperion expects something is up, and in a hokey Scooby-Doo style reveal, we're shown that it's not the president, but instead is the Beast. I'm having a hard time buying that one. Of all the Avengers that could potentially pass off as the president wearing a mask, a mask no less. The last one I would expect to have success at that is the Beast. After his big reveal, he takes off where he catches up with the remaining Avengers who have the president hanging on a wall. While Iron Man finishes figuring out the controls for the machine they're about to use, the Scarlet Witch slows down Beast pursuers with her hex power. This gives the Avengers the opportunity to escape back to Earth 616 with the Serpent Crown. The Squadron catches up to the portal, and as Hyperion prepares to go in after them, he's held back by the Golden Archer, who has a proposal for him. Thor and Moondragon arrive back at Avengers Mansion to find the place deserted except for Jarvis, who asks them to look into the disappearance of the others. On their way into the mansion, Moondragon points out to Thor that he far outclasses all of the other Avengers and accuses him of slumming it up below the level of his calling. The rest of the Avengers have shown back up on Earth, but remember that private army that attacked the Beast at the beginning of the story? The one where all of the Avengers went together to investigate it at the Roxxon/Brand manufacturing facility? Well, all those guys are still there, and they're waiting when the Avengers come through to the other side of the portal. Hugh Jones and Colonel Buzz Baxter are getting worried that their troops are still too green to take out the Avengers. Hugh Jones attempts to contact President Rockefeller of Earth S to find out why Squadron Supreme didn't take out the Avengers. The man he finds at the other end of the psychic connection is a mess. Rockefeller informs Hugh Jones that Squadron Supreme just held a news conference where they denounced the illegal setup of their corporate governance. Without a crown present, the cadre cartel had lost all influence, and chaos reigns. The news angers and scares Hugh Jones into action, promising to use the final weapon the Serpent Crown provided. In the weapons facility, the Avengers are fighting off hundreds of soldiers. This is brought to a close when a looming shadow knocks out 6 heroes with a single punch. The giant beast disappears before it can be seen, and the Avengers are loaded into a transport vehicle where they will never be seen or heard from again. Just as the door is closing, Thor and Moondragon finally arrive on the scene. Hugh Jones must be a very rich man, because he has a frickin' watch phone. I know that having a phone with a clock on it is commonplace today, but in 1976, when this was written, push-button phones were the high point of phone technology. He uses this fancy device to call in the secret weapon once more. The hidden menace turns out to be Orca, the human killer whale. He might have taken out 6 heroes at once in the previous issue, but now he stands against 2 gods. Thor goes on the offense. Moondragon comments on Orca's increased strength, and I find both parts of Orca's response fascinating. First, he was called from the sea by the Serpent Crown. The power of the crown to act on its own seems stronger than ever with this in mind. Secondly, he continues by letting us know that brand technology changed him via a number of physical alterations. Moondragon's mental blast stuns the beast, but she can't take him down, and I love this. She can't take him down because he doesn't have enough brain to blast. With a lone punch, Orca KOs a goddess and laughs about it. Thor responds the same way he does to, well, just about everything that makes him angry. The next page gives us another great quote. Even a god has its limits, while a corporation doesn't. The panel after that shows our captive heroes lined up on the electro-incinerogram, which, with the flick of a switch, will make all of them vanish forever. Captain Baxter, who has apparently lost rank since the last time we saw him, is ready to get rid of them all right now, but for seemingly no good reason, Hugh Jones wants to wait. After some back and forth, Thor does defeat Orca. Thor reaches deep within and finds a well of power that he had completely forgotten about. He's been around mortals for so long that he'd just gotten so used to holding back all the time out of fear of killing them or embarrassing his friends via his explosive might. In that moment, he knows that Moondragon is right. He is more than the other Avengers. He alone is his equal among them. Armed with this knowledge, Thor opens up and defeats Orca with a single punch. Afterward, Moondragon rises from the ground, not knocked out, but faking it so that she could help Thor remember what it means to be a god. Inside, Buzz Baxter can't pass up the opportunity to talk trash to his unconscious ex-wife's face. I'm not saying that this is the reason why Patsy wakes up when nobody else in the team does, but if he had kept his mouth shut, everything might have worked out for him and Hugh. But Hellcat does wake up and immediately attacks her ex-husband with a diving leap. After a brief struggle, Hellcat pins Buzz and threatens to claw his eyes out if he doesn't release her friends. Hugh Jones has seen Orca's defeat on the view screen and radios for Buzz to kill the Avengers, but nobody answers. He runs through the corridors to the room to take care of things himself and find out where Buzz has gone, when at that moment, he runs smack dab into the Avengers. The last page of this arc mentions a couple of loose threads that need tying off, those being Patsy's feelings after having to kick her ex-husband's ass, and Thor explaining where his extra burst of power came from. What isn't addressed, and hasn't been addressed for this entire last issue outside of one panel, is where's the Serpent Crown? The heroes took it back to Earth, and then what? And what about the other Serpent Crown? The one that was lost in the house fire after Captain America defeated the Serpent Squad? Are there now 2 Serpent Crowns on Earth 616? I'll get to the bottom of these questions and more in the next episode. Thanks for watching. Feel free to hit the buttons below. I am out.